Yeah, anyway, I'll check it out later. So let's start with the Heart Sutra. I see that Graham is wearing a sympathetic red jumper. All right. Together with the Museum Monks and Great Committee of Bodhisattva. At that time, the Bhagavan was in concentration of the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva was very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld of thought ideas also as empty from current nature. The power of the will and Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection
He said that
Shariputra is the son of the lineage of perfection of wisdom. Like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding to its fire, it's also is empty and perfection. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition, factors, and consciousness. Shariputra is often overrated. Produce unceased stimulus, not without space, and condition of fulfillment. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form of feeling, no discrimination, no composition, practice, no consciousness. No being, no becoming, no body, no mind, no vision, form, sound, no order, no object of touch, no phenomenon. There is no element inside, including no mind, no consciousness. There is no ignorance, no extension of ignorance, and so on, including knowledge and death, no extension of age and death. Similarly, there is no stopping, no origination, cessation, no path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and no also no limit. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration, without having completely beyond error, beauty, and all that is involved in 3 times also manifesting. Perfect, complete enlightenment, relies on perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the matter of the perfection of wisdom, the matter of great knowledge, the unsurpassed matter, the matter of the latter, classifies what suffering should be known as wisdom of force. The matter of the perfection of wisdom is declared. I am Gati, Gati, Paragati, Parasamgati, Bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasapa, should train in profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the bright one arose from that concentration, and then the Bodhisattva Mahasapa, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. Once you practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated it into the Talitans rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, and were shot by the Putra, the Bodhisattva Mahasapa, are completely described, thus surrounding in their entirety along with the worlds of most humans, asuras, and Gandharvas were overjoyed and finally praised and spoken of. I prostrate to the gathering of the zucchinis in the 2 chakras, or by the holy yoga of using space. By your powers, clairvoyance, and magical radiation, after practitioner is like a mother and a child.
By the teachings of the 3 supreme jewels, possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be cast out. Children before years. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here right now. Sangye
Sanji Chodam Sogi Chonam Shachu Padi Kami Kausuchi Kami Chushi Pipetsona Rola Peche Sangi Drupash Sanji Chodam Sogi Chonam Shachu Padi Kami Kausuchi Kami Chushi Pipetsona Rola Peche Sangi Drupash Sanji Chodam Sogi Chonam Shachu Padi Kami Kausuchi Kami Chushi Pipetsona Rola Peche Sangi Drupash Kangi Tuzini Zoni Tawa Tamji Pambi Chere Tambi Chuni Tunzi Kodam Kela Chanzi Good morning everyone.
All right, tea offering. So let's put no coffee.
Garden so they go. Garden Yakut Satrajina. Kazi Tarin Sakila with the calling corner of the Sarada, Chigramnet or Tangachik Sham Tunada, Chiglasa. I need you, Lachi. Tarin Sakila to sit or Chitsigi and did a tap to us like Laguku to set up in a Kanjun chickens. Kanjun chickens love them, Tangachim Bendigo. Delmunda. Kijidi Tanshi, Geri del Soni, could Tangatin Jobs to Tanshis Lavosa. Then some of the time that some of the theaters. Kijidi, Gender Trubitari Troop, Zatawa, the Javan Chivi, the Tonga Kiba, Tonga. And was Dini Motella, and Tangatishan, the Javan Chivi, Tonga Kivi, and Peluchu from the secure. 아니 장면도 두지 이게 제발이야 나도 아니 추조균이 너무 소리를 치네요. 장면도 두지 아니 닝균이지 나로치스 닝 다이지
Tragetone.
인지 제발나 되니 어떤 지 sammuchi courses ra non vigin season chiamara
In Nistagela.
nizagila chidan di and chigar dinga di ko mana do this.
Yeah. So Geshe had a plan to inaugurate the Garden of Enlightenment, to do a consecration ceremony, and together with the displaying of the tanka on the newly constructed tanka frame, also a long-term project that we have had in the pipe. So it seems that it's coming to conclusion. So there's quite a lot of work that has been done in the last couple of weeks. Once the restrictions level has eased up a bit, then we went back to the garden, not me personally, but other people went back to the garden and continued working on different stuff. And Geshe had the idea that it was supposed to be the meeting of a few dates. First of all, the 1 year anniversary for the passing away of Johnson, who was one of the major sponsors for the garden. So Geshe thought that if we finish everything on time, then we can consecrate the garden, also have a day of celebration of Johnson's life and the displaying of the tanka. So, Colin and Gary has been putting quite a lot of work into it. But then Gary came up this morning and said that actually the tanka is in Bendigo. So it was supposed to be there for Gyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche's visit to Bendigo, the retreat, and due to COVID-19, obviously it hasn't made its way back. So, Gary said that he will try to have it here by the 28th, but Geshe thought that it's we're running quite thin. So rather than displaying the tanka and doing the consecration on the 28th, then Geshe thought that let's reconsider that and try to do something else. So the July 6th is His Honour Dalai Lama's birthday. So let's try to have it on July 6th. It's going to be Monday. We can try to have it as, hopefully the tanka will be here. So we'll allow, there's 1 more week for the tanka to make its way miraculously here back. It will probably pick itself up and walk all the way across the border. Geshe thought that since the plan was also to invite Gyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche here to do the consecration of the statues in the garden, and we had to postpone the visit because of the COVID-19 situation, then Geshe has an alternative idea. So he will just do a brief consecration, but maybe if Lama Sopa Rinpoche is listening to our teachings on Zoom, maybe we can also have Lama Sopa Rinpoche sending a brief recitation online through, or recording or video of recitation for the Garden of Enlightenment. Maybe we can arrange for that. And it's going to be Monday, so it's obviously not as comfortable for some people, but it still is His Honour Dalai Lama's birthday. So that could be a really nice way to, if we get a tanka of Chenrezig, to display it on Chenrezig's day. We're still, the 28th, which is the anniversary for the passing away of Johnson, will still be on the 28th, right? So we'll have rather a bigger event. We'll still have an event here, prayer for Johnson and so forth, the celebration of her life. But since the tanka is not here, then we'll do it the following week on the 28th. What do you reckon?
Was the Putin's mother as well?
On the 8th.
Yeah. Yeah.
also Poonam's mom's 49th day is going to be on the 8th, so that you cannot change that. You cannot make a 49th day in another day. So Geshe said that there are some days which are just kind of set like that. So we'll just do what we need to do in those respective dates.
Then the such gauge chairman, the Gondasra, like that, the Nanchi Chuzo Rania, the son of Fang, and Chidangi, Sanji Chi Olea, Raji Mato, the Shamba kind some of this. He made it some the garden Yabu Petsatus. The garden the layer, Twinju Rodon Chingy, Shende the Chonsa Segurata. And then Chechon Chidan on Chishima that the Pesha Katan Tachini. Nisambala Gumi Keja, Yanchelia, Eschi, Nimbatoch, Chair, Chenas, some so years. In the kind of a day, then the Madu is the Madu Juni, Kunzo Mintos Ravana. Not the new the Abutus. And Savi garden such a Korangi, Jindajora. The and the Katie the Tommy Chagwas. Koran George Peroches. Garden Koran such a Koran Jindacha. And the Tolia, the Kunda Tolia, Shende landing into, Chili landing into, and George Perchi, and I'm thinking with the Lia. Then two just Lagoedi, and was covered with the Chiniki, Gange Chagwas, but the Richie beverages.
Ne pesce di quello devo io marò ziba dentro
Con le teo yoga.
devo cezza
Are,
già
and the Shembajic soon like
no. So then Geshe said that he's thinking on his feet, right? So he hasn't, we hadn't had a meeting about it. We haven't discussed the particular dates and events and what we need to do. So he's just thinking of on his feet. So he apologizes if it seems to be a bit haphazard. He just kind of had those points in mind, and since the Tanka is not going to be here, so they thought, let's maybe try to shift things around and see if we can pull things together. So also what Geshe had in mind was to, since there were a few people that have contributed to the Garden of Enlightenment, some people have made donations. There were donations that came into different amounts. So Geshe thought that maybe we'll try to also honor people that have contributed financially to that. Maybe let's say that the benchmark would be $800 and more. So we'll invite our major sponsors for that, and also maybe if we can thank them and also maybe give them a token of appreciation, that would be good. So we can probably get a list from finance or from the office somehow of the people that have made that contribution, so that we can also thank them on the day.
Such a thing the lamas.
No.
Like such a Koran Jindati, Kunichagos, Kunichiperos.
The Amadia. Yeah, so also Tom and Kathy, of course, were part of the people that get the land upon which the statues are standing. So maybe if someone could send them an invitation.
Yeah. But the Lamon Yagi, Nansamagi, Rewata, Use.
Geshe is hoping that all of us would be able to be here for that and to make it happen.
On the 6th.
The 6th, yeah, July 6th. That's His Honour's Dalai birthday. It's going to be 85, I reckon, right? 85.
No yoga class. Yoga
yeah. So apparently, Dechen, it might put a spanner on your yoga class arrangement.
And he's going to be away then.
All right. Well, maybe we can have an alternative yoga class celebration during that day. Everything can be put on a positive spin. We can have a swimming session.
What's this?
Yeah, shut up, Yaki.
Yeah.
당한 또 시간한테 이거 땡기 또 세팅 인사를 땡기 또 버스스 다다니 콘조스는 이겨와 템바당 물론 또 신기 개베스 템바당 아 겹수는 대다가 까시 주고스.
Anyway, having said that, let's go back to the text. So we have been looking at a second chapter that teaches the parts of the 7 limbs of worship. We started to look at the limb of confession. And in the limb of confession, we've covered the first power, which is the power of regret. Today, we're going to begin with the second power, which is the power of support, which has 3 main points. From this very moment, rely on the refuge of the 3 jewels, then rely on the children of the conquerors who possess powerful aspirational prayers, and having gone for refuge, practice in accordance with their instructions.
예, 당보 다다니 콘조스는 기억을 땜발했다. 아니 땡기 겹소디 아니 겹조생기 땡기 톱소나 신기 아니 다 겹조 디 아니 겹 콘조스는 겹수로 거기서 다 겹수 줘야 되는지 지 두장 샤장세 소리 많이 봐 아니 지 겹수 줘고 같이 10번 대마타고 배 아니 겹좀 고정 거야 송구여스.
So is it from here or from the outside? All right. So we begin with the power of support in looking at going for refuge and then generating bodhicitta. So rather than here indicating certain aspects of refuge in terms of period or duration and so forth, we begin here with the basic going for refuge, the need, the purpose of going for refuge and so forth.
대다 자변은 대외 자원 조용 거 로지비 텐션 봐. 또 진지고 코스가 되는 게 없으시스.
Let's look at the verses.
로고도 나오면서 데이트 수치 거기서 와도 전주스는 좀 무슨 얘기가 없으시스. 이 쇼가 니디다. 아니 겹도 된 거라서.
So the power of the base, relying on the refuge of the 3 jewels, starting right now. Therefore, from today onward, I take refuge in the conqueror, the protector of migrators, who works to rescue migrators and who eliminates the powerful dangers. I also take perfect refuge into the Dhamma that he understood, which eliminates the horrors of cyclic existence, and into the assembly of Bodhisattvas.
대다 디기 더 가르친 거를 슬라운디 자원 조용 거스 gelwa sedi 지당 당간조 단 뉴몬보다 시지지비 아니 셈 드르치니 아니 차단 모습 그 샤원도 켜진다 아니 더 동한 바시기 내려야 겨 통문을 단답하게 지 저데디 케데디 아니 수 거인치 투르스나 아니 자원 조용 공부 자원이 아니 자원 사제 들었다고 티기다 아니 거인치 투르스 다 데라야 자와세디 뉴모바타 시집 주발이 야위나 아니 자와스 아니 심지언남 텔리 트로와야 거인 초부죠 코인은 거인스 어떤지 상담 주고서라
Sanchimakaran?
심지언남 뉴모바타 시집 주발
So this verse reads, again, looking at it, it says, therefore, from today onwards, I take refuge in the conqueror, the protector of migrators. So we've been taking birth since time without beginning, connecting to one birth after the next, under the power of afflictive states of mind, anger, attachment, and so forth. our mind have been governed by the two sets of obscurations, afflictive and cognitive obscurations. And in all those myriad lifetimes, we've been connected to birth under the forces of such powers. So what can afford protection? The victors, like for example, like Shakyamuni Buddha, the victor, can afford protection. So why do we call them victors or conquerors? Well, because they have vanquished the two sets of obscurations. They're also the protectors or guardians for us because they can afford protection from the two sets of obscurations, from afflictive and cognitive obscurations. So then in terms of the three objects of refuge, the first verse teaches the features of the Buddha, who is the teacher of refuge. So then the first section of this verse refers to the Buddha, the teacher of refuge, the one who became liberated from the two sets of obscurations, and thereby he became a valid being, an authoritative person, a Bhagavan. So to that teacher of refuge, the victor, that teaches us unerringly the way ourselves to eliminate, to vanquish the two sets of obscurations, afflictive and cognitive obscurations. In that sense, only he teaches us to do that. To that person, the protector of migrators, we go for refuge. So that teacher of refuge that knows all phenomena as they are and in their extent, which means diversity and reality, that person for us becomes a guide along the path, the person that reveals the path to us. And in that sense, for us, they become a genuine, a real refuge. So it's not that we seek refuge in that person just temporarily or in certain situations. As it says here, understanding, as it says in this verse, understanding that from today onwards, I go for refuge to that person. Then the second verse says, I also take perfect refuge into the Dhamma that he understood, right? Indicating the second object of refuge, the Dhamma.
조 차고레스 디 냠수는 발을 때니 코인지관이 아니 세트고연자 코와디 트로트고연자 아니 딘디텔이야 아니 캡수고레스 대한다 드링이니 캡수세 지 자리에 왔어.
And in going for refuge to the Dharma, the actual refuge, the actual Dhamma refuge are true paths and true cessations. These are the real refuges. So a real refuge for us would be an elimination of obscurations, cognitive and afflictive obscurations. And if we wonder what brings about that elimination of cognitive and afflictive obscurations, which for us are the real refuge, well, what brings them are true paths. This combination of the method side and the wisdom side, the exalted wisdom that realizes selflessness. Through that, we can become liberated from samsara. So, in that sense, the Dhamma for us is refuge. And the last two lines in this verse say, well, let's read through all the verse. I also take perfect refuge into the Dhamma that he understood, which eliminates the horrors of cyclic existence, and into the assembly of Bodhisattvas. So into the assembly of Bodhisattvas here indicates the third object of refuge, the Sangha. So also looking at the words of this verse, it indicates that we're taking refuge in a Mahayana way. So there are a couple of forms of going for refuge. You can go for refuge in a Hinayana way and go for refuge in a Mahayana way. So here, particularly, Shantideva speaks of going for refuge in a Mahayana way. So here for us, as practitioners of the Mahayana Dhamma, of Bodhicitta, the refuge that we take is not just a simple refuge or a mere refuge in the Sangha. We take refuge in the Mahayana Sangha, because in taking refuge just in the Sangha, it would imply that there is no guarantee that a mere Sangha would be able to teach us what we need to know in order to follow the Mahayana path, or to be practitioners of the Mahayana Dhamma, practitioners of the mind of enlightenment. So we take refuge in the community of Mahayana Sangha, the one that can show us the path.
Javan drawing gombo, draw tamji cube, 10 to December. Jibali cube, multiple Chongawe, Top Chamber, Jibakun 7 Nubala, you'd telling in the caps choose. Jan Javati, two stupid children and Korean Jibas and Chukundrota, Babu Company, changes and Solar. Asian beyond our caps chill, the laundry trust calendar chowers.
The commentary to these couple of verses says, one does not find a refuge when one is reborn in the lower realms, even if one searches. Therefore, I quickly take refuge into the conqueror, the protector of migrators, who strives to rescue all migrators, and who has the perfect ability to eliminate all the very powerful dangers. Further, I accept the Dhamma that he understood and taught, the Dhamma jewel that eliminates all the fears of cyclic existence. I also accept the assembly of Bodhisattvas who have attained the state of a superior as friends in Dhamma practice and perfectly go for refuge to them. The next 7 lines cover the second point within the power of support, the second power of purification. So the point is relying on the children of the conqueror that do powerful prayers. So although in the commentary, the 2 verses are cited in a complete way, in an actual sense, the last line in verse 50 belongs to the next point in the outline, not to the point of relying on the children of the conquerors that do powerful prayers. So let's read through the first 7 lines. Having become afraid of the horrors, I offer myself to Samantabhadra, also to Manjushri, I offer this body of mine. Also the protector of Avalokiteshvara, whose actions are non-deceptive due to compassion, I implore in anguish.
Tadil tanda di da min jigbe nam tane se da di da jigsa di ta khaso ta da jitang joras da chakang di ne kam di ani jasa chanju se bi ta lam nyamning nyam se ne ka le ja ba na ani chaya di ta nyum ba ta ani kanji nyum bi shawang di churchin sombaina ani shenden pa jami randen zamya ta ani jum mutu bigi nejla hongju za and dinji jile cha chen ro ani da ani new badang shiji jibi shaun juba de ya cha nis jana yahobian song disra.
Sorry, I made a mistake. So it is, so we read first of all through the 7 lines, and then the commentaries that is given after that is of those 7 lines. The line "rescue me," the sinner, belongs to the next section. It still comes within the second section of the power of the base, but there's some separation between them. Anyway, here, what Shantideva is saying is that we're seeking protection in recognizing that we not let alone are unable to work for the welfare of others. We cannot even protect ourselves, work for our own sake, so long as we're governed by the 2 sets of obscuration. So we're calling out, we're requesting to be protected, we're requesting for refuge in order to be protected from the 2 sets of obscurations, to be rescued from cognitive and afflictive obscurations. So if we apply this understanding to these words, Geshe feels that that's a good interpretation.
아니 초주자고 세드 제발이야 뭐야 telaya and Puchini. T Lamden Kare Nambaina. T Tony, you didn't jogging on Samsung. And then Joto show Samsung, Malamgiano, Malamres, Tamjachana Tamjaris, but the Dijik sometimes Songuris.
And so long as we are beset by the fear of sattvic existence, being under the force of these obscurations for that long, as we said, let alone not being able to fulfill the welfare of others, we will not be able to protect ourselves so long as we're under the control of ignorance of grasping a true existence. So understanding that fear of being under the control of grasping a true, grasping at the self, and seeing that we have no ability to protect the self so long as we're under the sway of grasping at the self, we offer our body, speech, and mind to the Buddhas and the offsprings, or to the Buddhas and the children. So whatever path they will show to us, whatever path they reveal to us, we think, I will follow that path. So we make aspirations. May I follow the path that is presented to me by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to be protected from the fear of grasping at the self. Or you can also, if you want to make it as a commitment or as a promise, you can also make that.
Semlaya, Chilam Jugras, Bena, G. Suzulaya, Lamdin Nanginki, Lamakivision Chilaya, Tus, any Tebayomi Betoni, any Bena Tachi Lungai Sumpiari, any Chikijitiari, Karichev and D. Lamdalaya, any Chip Nemachiki, Tole, Joyagita, any once in a Nangaros, Nanguros,
Basically, we need to have this unshakable faith in our mind to follow this, this way of practicing. In that, with an unshakable faith, we offer our body, speech, and mind to the objects of refuge, to the jewels. And through that unshakable faith and offering our body, speech, and mind to them, we receive in our mind their blessings. So our Lama, spiritual, we need to have unshakable faith in the Lamas, this spiritual faith, so that we will seek their guidance as far as our activities of body, speech, and mind. If we have any questions, any queries, with that unshakable faith, we can become clear about those questions and also be committed to follow the path that they laid out for us.
Jambian, and Sherokila, Rock, Kanji, Nanzu, kept Hatubati, kept Josati, and Sherolea, Juguras, Rock, Sherolea, Ninjilaya, Chanchusen, Sherolea, kept Junu, Demaina, T. Momba Saviros, Rock.
So looking at verse 49 again, it's the first two lines say, having become afraid of the horrors, I offer myself to Samantabhadra. After that it says, and also to Manjushri, who is a deity embodying the aspect of wisdom, right? So we then offer ourselves to those things that represent the aspects of compassion, the aspects of wisdom and so forth. Here, Manjushri stands for wisdom. I offer this body of mine to Manjushri. Also, the protector Avalokiteshvara, or Chenrezig, whose actions are non-deceptive due to compassion, I implore in anguish.
Jidun Jambian Sishuna, Mashuna, Sanji Tamjiki, and it Sherab Chik Dubati, Jidun Jambian Chagores, and it's our Ninji Chik Dubati, and Pavacheris Chagores, Kanji, Tele Captubaina, and the Sanji Guki, two Zawin Chimbu, Ninji Chimbuti, and it Kanya Toba Meba, Tachik, and it Sozolaya, and it Chilean Jubati. Geshe Gatangari, Susu Moon, Tebata, Tansig Yomi, and Sanji Chiledi, 아니 뒤다 너무 군도 아니 이오메 버칩니다. 이어버디 야시야다 버리스.
Here, Manjushri embodies the aspect of wisdom of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, and also Avalokiteshvara embodies the aspect of great compassionate love of all the Buddhas. So if in our mind we make those, we approach them, make requests with that unshakable faith, their enlightened activities will be enacted unimpededly. There would be no obstructions, no hindrances in engaging their enlightened activities if you have unshakable faith in them. After all, the enlightened activities are emanated uninterruptedly at all times.
완전 넘버 산지비 취징이 니나는 태부 친구기 취징이 지기 겹쳐서기 연하면은디 장주샘 돈도 이시 아니 자원 인지 전부 디숨디 이바디다 세우슈즈레스 세우슈즈레스.
It is clear, this section is indicating to us clearly as Mahayana practitioners the practice of the mind of enlightenment, wisdom that realizes selflessness, and great compassionate love.
잔죽 샘디마디 리시오레스 된자 잔죽 샘 잠비안 수나마지니 아니 셰럽 캬 피기 아니 어머니 오솔도 이시티 아니 닌지 제리시 세나 닌지 치부티 다 디스음에 캡처바나 디스음에 템바나 다 카드이나 아니 노멀 트루아다 또 자원이 메바 아니 장시 니기 텐주 투와디 다 자시자다 디레스 라.
As it says, having become afraid of the horrors, I offer myself to Samantabhadra. So, Samantabhadra in Tibetan is Kundu Sambo. Kundu is always, and Sambo is positive or good, excellent. So, what is the thing that is perpetually at all times good, excellent? It is bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is at all times an excellent, a perfect thing. And as it says later on in referring to Manjushri, also to Manjushri I offer this body of mine. Manjushri stands for the aspect of wisdom, wisdom that perceptually realizes emptiness. And to Avalokiteshvara, Chenrezig, that embodies the aspect of great compassionate love. So we seek refuge in them, and there is no mistake, there is no deception in those beings that embody great compassionate love, wisdom, and the mind of enlightenment, that which is perpetually always good.
Dinza ani ta chanju sem tomito ishi ninji laya ninji chembolaya sozu lunga yinsu bosudi zu dita ani rangi semdi chadamo zong shangdu matamba ani lamji zu nomso laya ani buriya dredos ta dim bur sedi zu di ani rangi semdang ani zewa ninji chemboda pan jeva cheva an tonito ishida pan jeva cheva an chanju sanda pan jeva cheti tiredos dinza ta dindichi chombaina teni tata chago risira.
So we offer a body, speech, and mind. The main thing that we offer to them is a mind, in that the way of offering the mind is to make sure that a mind does not fall under the sway of anger, attachment, and ignorance. We offer a mind to the three principal aspects of the path. We offer a mind to them in that we create a connection. We relate in a mind to great compassion, right? So we connect the mind with great compassion, with bodhicitta, with wisdom that realizes that selflessness. This is the way of offering a mind to them.
Right. And same yeah Kasota, Chanju Sam the Tony the Vishia, Brewing Silla, Tanya di Chada Mosung Shawan Tanshavana, then Kalzun for the child was. Is that same Pugila and Jeva Chevalaya, any Comdi Tangoras, Kaduina, which Chanju Sam Gomia, Tony the Vishi Gomia, the Ninji Gomia too, Kombachevana, and Sam da Pigi, and Ninji the Jet over it, Sam Chanju Sam the Jet over it. And the Rangi Sambi and the Tony to be Ishida and Jetogares.
So then looking at our attitude, if we offer a mind to the mind of enlightenment, if we make such offerings also to wisdom that realizes selflessness, and yet in a mind we submit to anger, attachment, and ignorance, then we're just deceiving those objects of refuge in saying that I offer my mind to great compassion or to bodhicitta, to wisdom realizing emptiness. That would be just a deception. So to make those offerings, we need to create habits in a mind stream, to habituate a mind with the mind of enlightenment, to habituate a mind with wisdom that realizes selflessness, with great compassion, which means that we create that contact. We make a mind being able to relate to great compassion, to bodhicitta, to wisdom that realizes selflessness.
Nanju sem di chadang monsum da jeni yoin za di nanju nyamnyo yoras. Chadang monsum da jeni ani levi kabile ya kawal tena ya chi. Ani chori samuch. Ani yadu ki yenjik number thong de chi. Yungu to asra. Yungu to as. Ani sem pi Ninji the Jetovana, Kawal Tenaya, and Chick and Nin Tatuya. Sam Chanju Sam the Jena, Kawal Tenaya, Nin the Shartuya. Sam Tony to be Ishi the Jetuna, and big Leni number Jetuya, or Dindi Yashidama Yunguras.
And when we say that we want a mind to relate to great compassion, to bodhicitta, to wisdom that realizes emptiness, it's more like saying that we want a mind to be mixed with them, to be involved with them, with the mind of enlightenment, with compassion, with wisdom that realizes selflessness, in a way that now a mind is involved or mixed up with afflictive states of mind, with anger, with attachment, with ignorance. And so long as a mind is mixed up with anger, attachment, and ignorance, for that long a mind will be partial. So we are subject to that sense of partiality, which is then creating that discernment of good and bad or evil and positive. That comes through a sense of partiality that we sustain with respect to others. So rather than maintaining a mind or keeping that mixing of the mind with afflictive states of mind, we want the mind to be involved with the mind of enlightenment, with great compassion, with wisdom realizing emptiness. And when you do that, then you find others through the mind being involved with the mind of enlightenment, with compassion. You come to see others as being close to your heart. And with wisdom that realizes emptiness, then you have an accurate measure for making a distinction between the right and the wrong, the correct and the incorrect.
Nam Chang, Pulambi Tomchin, Cassie Kuduzambola, Dani Jibale, Dacham Sol Shivo, Jambi and the Dani Gite, Shingi Kuramainga, Sam Town, Dark Windimbo Q, Swinging Trubatan, Dimichel, and David, Ujichel Monto, Chantis in one Delayan, Jibi Yamta, Nare, Vende Betos.
Let's look at the commentary. So, these two paragraphs in the commentary explain the first 7 lines in those verses. Having become afraid of the horror that is the lower realms, I offer myself to the child of the conqueror, Samattabhadra, who does many powerful prayers. Through this, please rescue me from these abominations. Likewise, to Manjushri, without others having to urge me, I offer my body with a clear mind and the same request. Also, Avalokiteshvara, whose non-deceptive actions for others are motivated by compassion spontaneously and uninterruptedly. I implore you in anguish to please rescue me, who is pitiful because of these horrors. Please rescue me, the sinner.
Tilda, and two directions, Rangi Semdi, Benada, Jim Inji Chembu, and Jis Sonro Chevaina, and Newmumbi Shaman to Jomaras, Inji Shaman to Juras, and Sheriff Jis Sombaina, and Chadam Chori Shaman to Jomaras, Muyu start to was Legros, Chanju Sem Sombaina. 아니 디난신지 뒤따고 그 찬지같이 붙어야 시작을 왔어. 그건 샘디 인지기야. 아니 인지 전부야. 그마트가 차단 모습을 계셔와인자. 아니 차단기 다 손지. 아니 차단기 상황이缺掉. 차고로서 다 디리스로.
If we follow great compassionate love, we will not be under the sway of anger, attachment, and ignorance, but we will be controlled by compassion. And a similar thing can be said with respect to wisdom. If we follow wisdom that realizes selflessness, we will not have that partial attitude that is attributed to anger and attachment, which means that always we will follow the positive side. And the same thing can be said also with respect to bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, and great compassion. So rather than being under the control of anger and attachment, we'll be under the control of these positive states of mind.
And the Jisorochis Lapchi, same thing with any Yichetan and Tebatomi, any Ninji, Pain Tony Tony, and 2000 Ninji Gombaina, and Nanju Sambi and 7 Ninji Chimney, Shawan Chutuachi. Yungaras, Yasin Indulgent Tamboni, any Koninji Shawan Chutu, Digital in the Yomaras, Nanzunan Shinchin, and Tamawachiki, Bezunchini. And then you need the Chuson, Devachimato, Tamban, the Indian Chadu, Sukayomaras.
And when we implore those beings, it's not the way of thinking of imploring them is to always perpetually meditate on, for example, great compassionate love. This is the way that we implore them. We continuously or always meditate on great compassion and so forth. And we do that through having trust, through having faith, through seeing the benefits of compassion. So this is how we take it on into our practice. And also we keep in mind that those great bodhisattvas haven't been like that all along, right from the very get-go. They start off as ordinary beings just like us, who didn't have that acquaintance with great compassion, with wisdom, realizing selflessness and so forth. But through their practice, they develop those habits, and this is the path that we seek to develop. So it says, I implore in anguish. And when the commentary explains that, it says, I implore you in anguish to please rescue me, who is pitiful because of these horrors. So in one way will that come to be. It says, please rescue me, the sinner. This is how I plead. The superior essence of space and the essence of earth and all compassionate protectors, I implore from the heart to rescue me.
Teni kanshing thona sheji ponya la so dang dang chojin je cheba doji chana kapsu chise. Namgi mangja doji di ani sharavya chapyachi. Nguyoras ne kam di doji di to nibala chapya samto nibata kyalni kunjo sum nibadi 와 kyalni kunjo sum de kyalni kunjo sum ita chanju se minji ani sharavya ani kyapchu chin di and Nivajik Sam Levina, the deal with the car, Kadigin to me, Kana and to such a layer. That Tangaman, Juturis, never ever change.
It continues in saying, I take refuge into the Vajra holder, whose mere sight causes the angry minions of the Lord of Death to flee into the four directions. So normally we refer to the Vajra holder to the one that is associated with wisdom, right? So normally we associate Vajra with wisdom. But here, Geshe reckons that you can also refer to the Vajra holder as one that has ability, right? Rather than thinking of Vajra in relation to wisdom, you can think about it in relation to ability. The ability, for example, to grant protection, as it says here in this verse. I take refuge into the Vajra holder, whose mere sight causes the angry minions of the Lord of Death to flee into the four directions. So, in that sense, they have the ability to make them flee to these four directions.
Then Dala Kabso, she's what is it, Chanju Samba, Papa Nangin, but saying in the Tatan, Chambatan, the one says so, Tujichin, Kamjala Kabso Toshi, evening, when then baby, Yoshi Jebo, Chano Doji, Kanshi Tony, Shinji Ponya, Yasona Soba, Sinji, Down, Jana, Chojin Jebo Chebo, Doji and Kabso.
So the commentary to this section says, likewise, I go for refuge to the Bodhisattva superior, the essence of space and essence of earth. This is Kshitigarbha and Akashagarbha. To all greatly compassionate protectors that have love and have eliminated obscurations. I implore them from my heart, please rescue me. To all great compassionate protectors that have loved and have eliminated obscurations can also be a reference to Savanivarana Bishkambini, another one of those bodhisattvas. So it says, I also take refuge into the Vajra holder Vajrapani, who mere sight causes the angry minions of the Lord of Death to scatter into the four directions.
Chibari Nambing on the Cambodia, and it comes to Sony, and it comes to Labzella, Labgori Sanation, Chibari, it can be their sons in the Chova, and it comes to Labzella, Labgoriza, and it can be Labza Nama, and it comes to Joseph, Captain Sangi, Sony, and Sangi, Labshava Telia, Labgoras. Sangi comes from Shava Sawi in the mother, Sangi captures Lab Devana. And Pishi Kanara Rodajimoto, and then Mumalaya and Tuaji Mumaris.
So actually looking at those lines again, it says, to all greatly compassionate protectors that have loved, that's a reference to Maitreya, and have eliminated obscurations, that's a reference to Savanivarana Bishkambini, those two bodhisattvas. Anyway, just going for refuge to the Buddha will not cut it. We also then take up the trainings that the Buddha laid out, the trainings that the Buddha taught. Because if we go for refuge and we implore them to protect us, but we do not train a mind in the precepts of the Buddha, there would be no protection that will be afforded. The protection will come through training in the teachings that the Buddha gave.
혼지 교기 깔는데 먼저 단답했다 산지 깔는데 대버지만도 산지가 수지 죽도지 중요 말로 왔을 때 혼지 교기 깔는데 다는 집어 천통에 걔를 겹수 칠라기 집어를 쌀 소스
So we then go to the third point in this section, having gone for refuge, practice in accord with their instructions. Sorry, I should actually look at this. Previously, I transgressed your words. Now, having seen great horror, I take good refuge in you. By this, quickly eliminate all dangers, I request.
단 집어리 뉴드 잡로치스 쉬온디게 산지기 풀이야. 계란 집어리 뉴드 아니 잡거나 집어리 탈비기 탑단시기 들이야. 계란 뉴드 주거를 가지고 송바이나 뭔가를 낸 가르게 하는 거라. 근데 내가 내가 만 좋은 죽도 삼아래. 아니 나한테서 두점도 감정도 그니 그거들을
Here, the last line in this verse says, by this, quickly eliminate all dangers, I request. The request is made to quickly do that. We asked the protector to quickly do that. So how does it go that request to do it quickly? Well, it's like if we were to be asked to quickly eliminate the problems of others, we would find excuses why we can't do it straight away. No, I don't have time. I have some stuff that I need to do. I still need to catch up and sleep. I have a swimming session coming up and so forth. But
당연히 측디 샘띵으로 아니 인터벌이 되게 측디 때문에나 나도 타고야 이렇게 주고 받았어. 지번에 이렇게 타고나 지번에 저기 탑 때문에 잡았다요. 이렇게 주고 받았어. 디파샤는 저는 저와 심바지 개체지. 그러다가나 지번에 이렇게 타야 예, 탑로저리 되는 주고야만 다시 뭐 요마로서
that request to quickly protect us from fear needs to be done in a wholehearted way, wholeheartedly. Otherwise, if it's not done wholeheartedly, then the protection is not going to be granted in that way. There could be other things that those objects of refuge would be doing if the request is not going to be genuine or wholehearted. If your request to wholeheartedly be protected, if your request to be protected would be wholeheartedly, also from your side would be doing everything that is needed in order to be protected. Looking at the explanation of verse 53, it says, previously I transgressed your words, committed negativities, and did not practice virtue. Now, having seen the infinity of cyclic existence and the great horror of the lower realms, I take refuge in you. By my implementing what has to be practiced and what has to be abandoned according to your advice, please quickly eliminate all dangers, I pray.
대남 빈촉 덤비 송들
So we've covered a second part within the 4 parts of laying down negativities. Let's look at the third part. It is divided into 2 sections to begin with. The third part, the power of applying the antidote at all times, or thorough application of the antidote, begins with the reason it is reasonable to make effort in purifying negativities. And after that, we will look at the reasonableness of making effort quickly. The first point is divided into 2 sections. The need to quickly purify negativities as illustrated by the analogy of disease, and showing the need to purify by means of the analogy of an abyss. Let's begin with the need to quickly purify negativities as illustrated by the analogy of a disease as part of the first point, the reason it is reasonable to make effort in purifying negativities. It has 3 sections stating the meaning of the analogy. Then there are great disadvantages to the disease of the 3 poisons. In addition, the medicine for destroying them is rare. Thus, the third part, it is reasonable to practice in accord with the words of the teacher, the supreme doctor. First of all, let's look at the analogy. If one has to act according to the doctor's advice, even when in fear of an ordinary sickness, what need is there to mention one who is afflicted by the hundreds of faults of attachment and so forth?
member kepa jale jango sa member yo so jan tes disamalis even in zuga de la mas de ngam go ko so member just member ton ko chi sai set as de in zuga never neja so
When it says if one has to act according to the doctor's advice, of course, the doctor here needs to be a skilled doctor, an expert, rather than just kind of anyone that you would go to seek an advice. So Geshe mentioned yesterday that he had an injury a year or 2 ago in his hand, so in his finger. So he was cutting something, and then the knife went in his finger, cutting him deeply. He sustained a deep cut, and he went to see a doctor at the Gold Coast who was quite haphazard in applying a treatment, and he actually made Geshe's situation worse. So, when you go to see a doctor, you need to go and see a skilled doctor.
Did that, to say that, long to so truly Tama with making Jina. Shir Ton, teach you, tap maybe Nasan, Chagona, Toma Mevan, the Chala so, too soon, Johnny Chimbo, never Jato, talk to me, John Consuki, make it out. That be Ranja Tese, member chop. Gavikas in the Nimbo Temba, Zipa, with Chugu, Digby Nimbo, never resource.
Reading through the commentary to this section, it says, when one is concerned that one may die, as one is afraid of the sickness, one has to implement the method to destroy the sickness in accordance with the advice of the physicians, even to cure a common disease like a disturbance in the winds or bile. If that is so, then what need is there to mention that it is appropriate to rely on the antidote according to the instructions of the conqueror, the supreme physician, in order to be cured from the great chronic disease of the 3 poisons of attachment, anger, and ignorance, as one has been continuously beaten down since beginningless time by the sources of hundreds of thousands of shortcomings. It is appropriate to rely on the antidote to negativity. Shall we leave this session here for now? put them Gewadi Nidada Lama Sangye Dugine Roachi Kamalupa De Salagopa Rinpoche Makepana Tibiochi Kepanyapa Mepai Gone Gondo Pewashu Kowe Shinkufi Pendan Dewa Mamu Chue Chenre Siwan Tenzin Gatoi Shape Siti Wadu Tengyuchi Sanju Jupe Lam Seche Sanje Kajen Chana Pemo Tenzin Gatoi Soa Depso Shendu Janshin Jangun Yahweh Tenzi Pyongpe Chosung Gowele Mondu Anda Sudu Shidu Shakti.
Thank you. Bye-bye.